Welcome back. We've got another wonderful session to bring to you right now. About 2 years ago, when we were planning one of our SLIF live events, we send emails out to our network and to obviously our audience, asking them, topics and speakers they'd like to hear about. And Paul Mullen, Paul, if you're watching, what's up, man? Paul Mullen, who at the time was at Silverado, sent me an article about this company called Ori that was doing robotic furniture. And it was pretty interesting. And he's like, man, I'd love to hear from them. And I reached out and said, hey, do you guys want to come speak at SLIF? And they didn't respond to my email. So I tried for a couple of years. And fortunately, we were going to have Hasier Larrea, who's joining in a second, was going to speak with us, come and speak in May. But obviously, of course, we know that didn't take place. But happy to have him joining us today virtually to talk about his company. But I'm actually going to step aside and not moderate this discussion. We have a special guest, Sarah Thomas. Sarah, you there? Oh, there's Sarah and there's Hasier. How you guys doing? Well, I'm going to hand this off to you, Sarah, to have a conversation here because I think you're a little better versed to have a conversation specifically around for startups, startup companies and technology. And I think people are probably just tired of seeing my face. So I'm going to hand it off to you, Sarah. Say hello and you can have a conversation and we'll come back in the end. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Michael. We're never tired of hearing your voice, but it's an exciting topic, so I'm happy to kick it off. I'd love to first just give a few minutes to just talk about the history of the company, and then we'll go through kind of a fireside chat to hear a little deeper into what we think the application is for senior living, and then also how we feel the future of expandable furniture and flexible space design is looking for all of us. So maybe you can start off with presenting to us a little bit about the company that you have.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure. Some echo here. One sec.
Great. So I was studying my whole spiel here, but basically, I basically wanted to start with a thought-provoking question that some of you already have read, and that is from a book, 0 to 1. And it's really about, not just about innovation, but about where do you look for disruption? And this is a question that really kind of inspired me a lot, because it's this idea that, look at the world and try to find what important truth do very few people agree with you on. When it comes to what myself and my team have been working on, we basically realized that there are at least, I would say, 3 kind of lies out there that a lot of people believe in and that we believe are lies. One of them is this idea, square footage, equaling functionality or being proportional to functionality. This idea that the more square footage, the better, or the more functional. We believe that's a lie. The idea of lower cost means lower experience, and especially as we start talking about affordability and how there's this assumption that the lower the cost, the lower the experience will be. And then this last assumption, number 3, that architecture is fixed. And this idea is something that has been there for centuries, I would say. If you look at how Romans were to build like apartments or homes and how they were to lay out spaces, we would look at this idea of the place where we sleep, the bedroom, the place where we dine, the dining room. And that's been kind of the paradigm for so long. Now, though that old paradigm doesn't really solve the challenges that we are facing. As you very well know, the world is urbanizing at a crazy speed, which means a space is becoming scarce, a space is becoming expensive, a space is becoming smaller. So what we thought about is, this idea, when my team and I started this research at MIT, we thought about robotics. And we thought about this idea of robotics being, everywhere in some sense. I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of these ideas, from robotic kitchens to cars to drones. But no one was really thinking about what happens when we bring robotics to a space itself. And that's when we decided to launch a company out of MIT called Ori, with the idea of really empowering people to live large in a small footprint, using technology to really kind of layer a space on top of each other and changing the meaning of a space that way. So I'm going to show you some examples of solutions, just to make it very specific, of solutions that my company came up with. and that will tell you not so much just about a product, but more about a new way of looking at a space. So for example, this is called the Ori Studio Suite. And this is a solution that was designed very much for studio apartments. But the idea here is that we realized that people in these small spaces were having trouble with storage, lack of division of space, lack of a proper living area or office. So we thought about a solution in this case that could, at the press of a button, with your voice, with your mobile phone, go from a full home office to a full walk-in closet to a full bedroom on demand. Think about how these things could move almost like pixels in your iPad, but not in your iPad, but in the physical world. Of course, these are not just renders. We went through the long and winding road of taking these products to market. All these products are fully certified with all the reliability measures you can imagine. They're easy to install, flat packed, come through the door. They can get installed into existing buildings or new buildings. So we went through all that journey of from prototype or from pencil to product. Another example is the pocket closet. And this is kind of a much more focused application where everybody, has lack of storage. Everybody wants a full walk-in closet, like Carrie Bradshaw in Sex and the City, for those that remember. But walk-in closets take so much space. So what if we could basically expand and collapse the experience on demand? What if a typical traditional bedroom could have this amazing walk-in closet experience that at the press of a button could turn into a home office, for example? And again, with the same idea that, you start transforming a space in a way that adapts to you instead of you having to adapt to spaces. Of course, real products in the market, there's more than, 30 buildings with these products right now, multifamily rentals mostly, but more than 15 cities where we're installing these products as of today. Now, another example, we've been talking about horizontal solutions. What about vertical solutions? What if that king or queen size bed that you love could turn from being a space killer most of the day, which is what a bed is, to actually giving way or giving a space for a full living room instead? For those of you looking at my background, you can see the product here in my apartment. The idea here, again, think about not only studios, think about 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, all kinds of spaces where with the press of a button, a space transforms to adapt to your needs. Another interesting thing with solutions like this, as I said before, is that they don't need to be designed in on the construction of the building. They actually can be retrofitted as a piece of furniture, even though they are architectural in nature. This is the apartment or my bedroom that I'm kind of calling you from now, where you can actually see how easy some of these solutions got installed, similar to how you would install almost an IKEA piece of furniture. Design being incredibly important. You can see features where you see the back of the couch turns into your headboard, the armrest turn into your side tables. So we took care of all those details because at the end of the day, robotics is cool, but robotics needs to be invisible. The important thing is that design needs to really be the interaction with the user. So now, one more example, we're talking all about work from home, and everybody wants to have a proper home office setup. I'm sure you've read a lot of articles lately about that. So what if you could have this perfect office away from the office? This is called the pocket office. And it's this idea of turning almost every living room into some kind of an office den so that you can get this productive refuge of a home office without the need for square footage, which is what at the end of the day costs the real money, the square footage. Some renders here, and some animations here to give you kind of that sense of how a solution like this could look like in a typical traditional living room. Now, one thing that is interesting is when we look at this is that this is an example of how these technologies, think about them as a toolkit. Think about it as a toolkit where I just showed you 4 examples, but how, with design, you could start thinking of different applications. What I'm showing you right here is actually an example of a collaboration already did with IKEA, where we work with them to basically think about the skin, the furniture skin that our robotics could have for a specific market IKEA was looking at. So think about the power of the technology more than the specific implementations. Now, it gets even more interesting when you start thinking about not just products, but you start thinking about rooms, you start thinking about homes, you start thinking about buildings. What if we could design a building from scratch, knowing that these technologies are at our fingertips, you know? And that starts showing so much potential, you know, from the left side of this slide where we're just plugging in solutions, you know, after the fact, to spaces that are redesigned in a way that gets shrinked, but in a way the square footage gets shrinked while the functionality actually gets augmented. So think about affordability for a moment and think about that idea that if you can prove that living large in a small footprint is possible, you're really tackling the affordability challenge out there. Some examples of that, you know, you can see how products could work, could start working with each other. A bed that goes into the ceiling that gives a space for an office. You could think about apartments where, you know, in 300 square feet, you could have a home office, you could have a full walk-in closet, you could have a full bedroom, you could have a full dining room. So there's no trade-offs, there's no compromise anymore. And more importantly, kind of as we wrap up, you know, think about the potential of applying these concepts and these ideas for a space into not only studio apartments, like you're seeing here. You could start thinking also about hospitality. You know, what about that space where, you know, that office during the day turns into a bedroom at night? What if that bedroom at night turns into a gym in the morning? Again, everything at the press of a button. What if a bigger apartment, you know, a bigger apartment for a family, for example, where 2 bedrooms could turn into 2 offices, 2 home offices? What if those 2 home offices could turn into a gathering space? Offices, why not? What if 2 rooms could turn into 4 rooms? And what if 4 rooms could turn into 1 room? So what if the whole space, again, was so effortlessly transformable that it could be whatever we need at every moment? Retail, you know, like what about 24/7 usage of retail? Like what if the store could turn into the restaurant at 6 p.m.? What if the restaurant could turn into a bar at 9 p.m.? What if the bar could turn into a club at midnight? You know, think about 24/7 usage of a space. So the departing thought here I kind of want to leave is that we're talking about a new paradigm. We're talking about a new paradigm that is not about square footage. It is about how you can use a new way of thinking about spaces to empower people to live large in a small footprint in our cities.
Thank you so much. It's really exciting to see what we're capable of doing. What I'm interested in the interest of time, we'll be able to go a little bit over time here, but you know, I've worked with Yves Bahar before in some of his design inspiration, and I know that initial designs that come with him in collaboration then certainly progress over the years. And so from your time with him initially and with MIT, what was the first product? And now how are you seeing that evolution in the last few years?
Yeah, so the first product that we launched was the Ori Studio Suite, which is the first one I showed, this type of Swiss Army knife for a studio apartment, where we very closely collaborated with Yves Bahar, incredibly talented designer. And what I will never forget, you know, for us engineers coming out of MIT, we're very proud of our systems, which were very functional, but they were very robotic-looking systems. And I'll never forget, you know, those initial discussions with Yves, where we were discussing this idea that, yeah, I mean, if you're an MIT geek, it's great to see the robotics, but if you are the average person, robotics, that the magic needs to be kind of invisible, you know, and you really need to think about how these systems and these solutions should be something that you would like to have in your apartment, even if they didn't move. So he had a huge influence on us thinking about how we really weave, you know, design into technology, which is really kind of the key here.
We could geek out about that, I think, for hours. But you know, as we spoke earlier, I'm an occupational therapist, and so I'm very interested in universal design principles and designing for all. This product line that you have is beautiful, and it's also functional. But can you talk a little bit about its accessibility? Many of us are working with, you know, older adults and not just wanting space efficiency and effectiveness, but also accessible design. So can you tell us a little bit about, you know, how accessible and easy to use this is?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to concepts like accessibility, from the very beginning, our inspiration was that for many years, we had to adapt to spaces, and we think it should be the other way around. So when you think about, for example, a space transformation as a concept or space efficiency, it's actually a very old concept. You know, you can go back 100 years and think about Murphy beds. The problem is that that space adaptation has never been made effortless. And effortless is this idea that, it should be, a finger touch or your voice or your mobile phone, whatever works best for you. And when you do that, a space should almost like load, like an app loads for you on your phone. It should kind of load for you and give you kind of all the functionalities that you need at every moment. So the way we think about that, about accessibility, is really about, how do you make a space really work around you, which to me is a bit of the secret of a lot of technologies that have had success in the last years. When you think about why Amazon is so easy kind of to use for buying something, or how Uber is so easy to kind of, get a cab ride, is because they made effortless experiences. So that's how we think about architecture and space efficiency.
So I did have a question too. Many of the homes that we have are already, as you said, you're doing retrofit and not just new build. But I'm looking to, what about the smart home technology and what might need to be integrated? I had built and designed an innovation center in China, and it was a smart home. And I was thinking about putting some of this product in there as well, and thinking, what does it work with voice first, or what else needs to be thought of when you're building so that it can be integrated?
Yeah, so I mean, we've thought a lot about smart homes, and the interesting thing is that where the smart home is today, we think it's in that initial layer where, when you think about smart home devices and experiences, they're mostly focused on the periphery of the apartment. It's either a thermostat on the wall, or a lock in the entrance, or maybe a speaker kind of in a corner. But we think that the next level of the smart home is where you bring that intelligence and you start integrating it into the spaces themselves. The chair where you sit, the bed where you sleep, the office kind of where you work. And that gives so much potential for new applications, for new adaptive applications, or, pattern recognitions. We can always think about, like, even when we think about, older people, how we could actually recognize certain patterns or cognitive issues that are starting to happen in the daily patterns of that person. So you can start doing a lot of more interesting stuff once you start thinking about the intelligence of a computer not only being in the periphery, but actually being in the space itself, in the furniture that you use, in the walls that divide the space.
I love that. And in the senior living world, we're pitched a lot of demos, and we're not quite sure what is reality or what's stuck in academia or what's available to us right now. Can you tell us a little bit about what you actually use in a given day and what that experience is like, and kind of that shape shifting, and what does your apartment look like in a day, or office look like in a day? What's reality for us?
Absolutely. So, I mean, not only I don't have one Ori product or two Ori products. I have three Ori products in my apartment. So I'm definitely embracing the experience. First of all, the Ori cloud bed that is in my bag. Some of you might be wondering, how real this is, and I'm very confident to just, up here, press a button, and you'll actually see, a massive, bed dropping on my back in a second. So the first thing I do every morning, at the end of the day, is I kind of reclaim my bedroom. My bedroom should not be a bedroom if I'm not sleeping. So the first thing I do every morning, I just press the button, and all of a sudden this becomes almost like I would call it an executive kind of office, where not only I have my big desk, but I actually do have, a sitting area for chilling out. You see, important about accessibility experience, like I don't need to make my bed, so everything kind of disappears. Then I do have a pocket closet, which allows me to basically, I did have a built-in closet, and then I decided to install this pocket closet against it. So it doubled the amount of storage with experience. I will never forget one of my conversations with a senior living kind of developer when he told me, look, when you think of storage solutions, who has the most time to store a lot of stuff? And those are seniors. So definitely a lot of applications for storage solutions. And then the pocket office is in my living room, right now being used by my partner, which is basically the idea of turning that living room from being just a living room and a dining space to actually creating an office then. So this is not about only coolness and magic. This is really about turning your space into something that acts as if it was much, much bigger.
I love it. And now I just want to ask one question to wrap up. I know we're a little over time, but it's important since we're talking about affordability here. what's the cost of this? And we want to look at the middle market. We want to look at affordable housing, and we can see how effectively using space for multiple purposes and really looking at the new build and the built environment, as well as this flexible space design, will bring us opportunity in the future with senior living. But can you speak just a little bit about the affordability factor and some of the pricing, if you're able to share?
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, affordability is the general, global challenge that drives a lot of our innovations. In the sense that, that's kind of, as I said at the beginning, spaces are becoming smaller, spaces are becoming more expensive. Just to answer your question very specifically, when you think about these systems in volume, which is what we work with developers, so let's say a developer buying 50, 60 of these systems at a time, we are talking about, prices ranging in the $5,000 to $10,000 range, give it or take, just to give you an order of magnitude. But the important thing to emphasize here when it comes to affordability is that the key thing here is really square footage. Like, what really costs a lot of money is square footage. If now you can start saving on that square footage and adding these technologies that give you an extra 50, 60, 70 kind of virtual square footage, that's when you change the economics of the game. If you can make an apartment that, while being 300 square feet, for example, acts as if it was even bigger than a 500 square feet apartment, at that point, you're changing behavior. And at that point, you're also changing the economics of a building. So that's how we look at affordability. This is not one of my favorite quotes ever, is this idea that, like true disruption and innovation, it's not about, changing the answer, it's about changing the question. That's what is truly the revolution there. So that's kind of how we're thinking about changing the paradigm here for space and proving to people that they actually don't need as much space as they think they need if they have access to the right tools to design space.
Absolutely. Well, and if you're not only making my bed, but making it disappear, I'm in. So thank you.
Hey, this has been awesome. And as I said, Sarah, you have a lot more thoughtful questions than I would have, and more credibility to ask these questions as an occupational therapist. I do have one more question that, there were questions in the chat specifically, and great comments. People are impressed with Ori. But Jody Guffey had another question. She did ask about the pricing, but how or who would service this product if maintenance is necessary?
Absolutely. So we use certified local installers in every city that we go to. So these installers basically not only install the system, but these are the people that then we use for any maintenance necessary. I want to say that these systems are designed almost like tanks when it comes to robotics, so they don't need any scheduled maintenance. But if there is any issue that needs to kind of get fixed, first of all, the system becomes manual. So you can move it manually. I could move this bed up and down manually if needed, but then the fixes would be basically someone local coming to make a swap of any component that has malfunctioned.
Got it. Well, listen, thank you both for joining us. Unfortunately, we are out of time. If people, of course, want to learn more about Ori, it's oriliving.com, correct? That's the domain?
Yeah.
So you can learn
exactly.
more about how to multiply your space. So thank you so much, Hasier, for joining us. And Sarah, thank you for moderating the discussion here. And hope to see you guys in person soon. Again, that's how I'm going to keep signing off here. So we have another another speaker to join us in just a minute to talk specifically about the built environment. But before we do that, let's go to a couple more commercials.
Your residents expect.
Your residents expect.
Your residents expect the connected life experience. We deliver that.
We deliver that.
We deliver that.
After nearly 18 years of servicing multifamily communities, Single Digits is proud to expand our services to the senior living marketplace. With the acquisition of Viacom, Single Digits picks up an amazing team who's knowledgeable around the senior space and the needs of that market, combining with Single Digits support services and unique technology on our Platform One. We're really looking forward to delivering a new brand of services and internet connectivity to the senior space.
This is the Benjamin Moore Testing Facility, where our technicians have been working to create a new product that can stand up to the toughest conditions. Conditions like your team's locker room after a tough defeat, Or the service entrance that gets more traffic than the 101 at rush hour. Or the school cafeteria on Spaghetti Day. For places like this, we're introducing Ultra Spec ScuffX. It's been meticulously designed and tested to deliver superior scuff resistance, durability, and cleanability. Unlike similar products that you have to measure and mix, with ScuffX, you simply pour and paint. You've always expected heavy traffic in busy commercial spaces. Now you can expect those walls to stand up to it. Ultra Spec ScuffX, now available from Benjamin Moore.